Hey everyone, I'm just creating this video just as a bit of a test. I want to start running some tutorial stuff on a YouTube channel that will show up eventually. Today I'm deciding to just do a little bit of a demo on creating halftone effects in Clip Studio. This is the EX version, something I've been using for quite some time now. Really like it, better than Photoshop. It's just more suited for the type of art that I do. Photoshop I found worked for the most part, but when I got my new computer, I just wanted something a little more cost effective. When I've been posting some demo work using the different sort of techniques and experimentations, I found that I just got a lot of response for the halftone demonstrations. So just wanted to sort of show how I do that, and yeah, hopefully it's something that you can use in the future. If not, just interesting bit of knowledge to have, I guess. Never hurts to learn some new techniques. So I started off this morning. I've got a doctor's appointment in about an hour or so, so I just wanted to make positive use of that time. So I figured, yeah, I can do this little demo. And I quickly, over the last half hour, I just did this Link sketch. I've been in a bit of a Zelda kick lately, and I guess it has to do with playing a lot of Breath of the Wild, and also the fact that I've been reading the manga over the last couple of years. Right now, reading the Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons book, and I've just been sort of enthralled by that technique, or curious about it at least. Maybe enthralled is too strong a word. Anyway, without further ado, I just want to get to the technique. So you see that within the program, I've set up my pencil, inks layer. So as I said, this is just a quick sketch. I know there's some maybe wonky anatomy things. I just wanted to pick kind of a standard pose, something fun. So yeah, I started first, of course, with the pencil, and then went in with did the inks on top of it. And that's a great thing about drawing digitally, is just not having to spend time erasing and then hoping that you get everything. Because when you do stuff traditionally, which, I'm not knocking or whatever, it's just that I find that I'm a little bit rough on the page, so I wear it down with all the erasing and redrawing that I do. I tend to try to stay light, but then after a while, if I get frustrated or something, I'll dig into the page. So I've got my inks, and now I just want to add a little bit of shading to it. I mean, typically I'm doing very detailed, photorealistic kind of stuff. So for this example, I just wanted to do a simple cartoony slash manga style, not something I typically draw in, but let's see how it turns out. So just going to add a new layer. So I've got my pencil, my inks, so I'm just going to click on this little page thing right there, new raster layer. And I'm going to go up to the layer properties just over here and click on the halftone. Right now it's set to, you've got your different screen tones, you've got your, um, density, and honestly, a lot of the stuff I just learn as I go along, and it does what I want it to, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't do what I want it to, I play with it until it does, or I go online and find a tutorial. In this particular case, I discovered this myself. So I've got my dot settings. This is the thing I'm looking at, set to circle, but you can do things like lines, crosses, ellipses, play with it however you like. Um, my number of specific number of screen frequency, I'm finding that at the resolution I have, it is 300 dpi. This makes the dots just a little bit too small for me, and I'll show you what I mean. Like when I'm looking at it zoomed out this much, so I'm just going to go in. I'm going to pick a kind of a middle gray on my color wheel over there. I'm just going to go in. I'm not going to zoom in at all. I'm just going to show you. Okay, so this is what's happening. I'm getting this really weird kind of grid effect that I don't like. And I mean, when you zoom in, yeah, it goes away. But I mean, if I'm printing this, it's not as though the reader or whatever is going to be able to zoom in. And I know there are settings and things that you can do to kind of counteract this for print, but I just want it to look as though it's a printed page. So it's kind of a standard 8.5 by 11 document as it is that I have set up. So you can see that by playing with this, the effect lessens considerably, and I found that the kind of 21 is a bit of my sweet spot. And I mean, this is a fixed, um, it's a fixed tone because of the fact that I'm using a tool. And that's the great thing about the halftone feature in this program, is that depending on the tool that you use, it's going to create a different effect. So now I'm using the pen tool, which is just basically a flat color, because if I was to do this on my inks layer, it would just be a gray flat line. So just undo those, and of course undo these as well. So my favorite way to add tones is actually using the Airbrush tool. So I've set my, so I see that my screen frequency setting has reset. So I'm just gonna move it back down to 20. And if you find you do something like undo to the point that it resets it, you can just change this while you're doing it, as you saw that I did. Like once I draw, that number can be slid on the scale or change if you want it to be a little smaller or a little bigger. So I'm just going to leave it at 21 right now. And I like to do it naturally. I don't want to just drop it in as a solid layer and then cut the stuff out after. That's more the traditional method when they used to use the screen tones back in the day when you can find them. But right now I just want to do it as though I'm actually painting the tone on. So what I like to do, I've got my middle gray still selected. I'm going to go into the airbrush tool, and right now I'm going to pick the soft one. That's my favorite kind of thing to use for this. And as far as how you use your screen tones, it's really up to you. I mean, you can use it to create a sense of depth. So what I'm going to do is show you doing that with this arm back here. And I'll just ease it, just create a flat tone like that. And some of you might be thinking to yourself that, oh, it's a bit too big. And that's just because I pressed down harder. I'm using a Wacom or Wacom, whatever you want to pronounce it, a tablet. So I was pressing down a little bit hard. So you see, but pressing down lightly, I get a nice light. And if I press down more, it gets darker. And it will darken in accordance, or the dots frequency, size, whatever, will be in accordance with the shade that you pick. So if I was to pick black, I can press down really light, but then go all the way into that value if I want to. But in order to prevent that from happening, I'm just going to, I'm just hitting the undo, and I kept it at, so I'm just going to keep it at the lighter or mid-tone. And this time when I do the arm, I'll just do it a little bit more lightly. And the great thing with painting this on too is that you can just go in if you need to erase it. Any areas that it's gone over a little bit, you can zoom in. I don't really want to zoom in and out for this demonstration. I just want to make it user friendly. So I'm just going to kind of transition from dark to light with this. So you're seeing that I'm just gradually kind of dropping this in. Now, one more setting that you want to keep in mind, this is, as you can see here, it's kind of doing this weird halo effect. You got a white border around the dots. So one thing I like to do is go into my layer settings and then select multiply, and immediately it gets rid of that. It just makes it into a flat black that's sitting on top of the layer. So I'm just going to go in and erase it and all the areas that it's kind of bleeding over. It's just so much easier than using a X-Acto knife or something like that to cut the stuff out back, like they did back in the day. And of course, you know, some might find that relaxing, and that's fine. So just going in there, erasing that. And if I think my dots are a bit too big, I'm just going into my screen frequency and I'm just making it a little slightly smaller so I can do an in between. So this is a setting that you can play with. You're not going to lose your shapes or whatever, your actual, the lines that you've created. It's just going to change the frequency of the dots and stuff like that. So according to what I've already started, I'm indicating some shading and stuff like that. So this could be argued that the light source is coming from above his right shoulder to the front or the back, and that'll change depending on, well, it should be consistent obviously as you do it, but as I flesh this out more, I'll sort of fine tune the specifics of that light source and light sources and stuff like that. That's something that you should practice. That's a whole other tutorial. So I'm just going to go in and continue my shading. So yeah, on the side of the face here, maybe a little bit under the chin, under the brow. on the side of the hat. So I'm really just dropping this in here. And because this foot's going a little bit back in the distance, I'm going to do what I did with the arm and put it back, add a little bit of the shadow under there. Same thing with the finger and stuff here. So I'm just kind of doing this in a convincing way, or as convincing as possible in some areas. And this is a good thing about sort of painting it on, is I don't have to worry about matching up specific tones because I've got it on an airbrush setting, so it's just kind of gradually doing it. So a little bit of shading on the nose if I want to. And because I'm keeping it on a separate layer, any mistake that I might make, I can just erase it if need be. So just going into the foot. And do the same thing on the sword. I'm doing this very haphazardly right now, but it's fine. It's just for fun. I mean, it's all about learning the technique, playing around with it to get what you want. And as I said, I can go in, reduce my brush size, and you see I'm able to do it very quickly because I've got a gaming controller set up beside. It's like shaped like a hand a little bit, and I've got my brush size set to my scroll wheel. I can do another video talking about that later on. But it's extremely helpful to be able to quickly go from large brushes to small brushes while I'm working. And this is another benefit that I enjoy to working digitally, is that I don't have to search for the brush or make sure it's clean or whatever. I just gotta grab what I want. So as you can see, the brush size keeps changing. Like if I want to cover a large area, I just make it bigger. If I want to cover a large area, smaller. I'm doing that with my left hand. I'm a righty. And with my right hand I can draw, so I can kind of multitask. I can change as I go because of this awesome tool. And yeah, anything over here, I can go ahead and do that. So you can see you've got this lovely gradation happening with the actual toning or tonal pattern. And I find it's a lot of fun to use it once you get the hang of it, and it's easy to overdo it, so I don't want to do that. I just want to sort of drop it in where I know the shadows might be in accordance with what I understand about light and shower. Not shower, shadow. Not editing clearly, as you can see. And then if I want to have some flatter areas, I can go in and do that. And of course, you also have the option as well, if you're happy with this and want to go in and drop like a layer behind it of a screen tone, you can do that through the materials menu and stuff like that. But the good thing is if you add a new tonal layer, I'm gonna set it to multiply in advance here. And again, making sure it's set to the tone pattern, you can go in and have a higher frequency tone now behind, like as a background thing if you want, so you don't have to use the same frequency for the whole illustration as long as it's on a different layer. So if you want him to be standing out or something, and you could do, and this is the cool thing about the airbrush with the halftone, is you can create these like halftone kind of cloud effects if you want to. So just to zoom in to show you the difference, like the frequency is a lot more dense when I zoom in than it is when I zoom out. So you've got that sense of layering there without having to go too crazy with it. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the demo is concerned. If there's any questions, I'll be posting this on Facebook, so I imagine there'll be mostly friends looking at it. But if you have any questions about the effect, just yeah, feel free to mention it in the comments. And one more cool effect that I'll show you before going is that again, you can erase this. Like you saw me doing it around the different forms when I had stuff I didn't like, but you can also use it for effects. So for these motion lines, when I want them jumping out without recoloring the line art, I can do that. I can just sort of reinforce that motion over there. And obviously do it a lot more carefully if I was doing this for a proper illustration. But there you have it. So thanks for watching and hope this was helpful for whoever was watching it. And that's the illustration. Okay, thanks again.